USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm excited about this week's guest, Eric Dingler, and he is chiming in to us from Liverpool, England. He is known as the Nomadic Marketer, and we're going to hear about how he turns tactics into strategy. We're going to talk about his client avatar, and I'm really excited to have him on the show to discuss his expertise. Eric, welcome.
Thanks, Chris. I'm excited to be here and have a conversation with you to help the listeners grow their brand and be more successful.
Yeah. And briefly chronicle your journey, and I'm excited to dive into the questions.
All right. So real quickly, with the last over 3.5 years, my wife and I, along with our 4 teenagers, have been full-time travelers. So we've lived in 16 countries. We've been almost in 40 Airbnbs. And just having a great time exploring the world with our kids. And we're not independently wealthy, so I have to work full time as we go. That's the digital part of being a digital nomad for us. But I didn't expect it to impact my company the way it has and our approach to serving our clients. And we've learned a lot and excited to be able to share that now with others.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to ask you further about 4 teenagers. Some people are like, wow. One thing I love is describe what is your client avatar, what is their unique goal or aspiration, or what is their pain point or frustration that comes them to hit the buy button and work with you.
Okay, so for us with our digital marketing agency, our typical client persona is the local business owner. They have customers coming to their physical location, or they're going to the customer's house for home services, but they have a local clientele, and it's somebody that started a business but never wanted to become a marketer and a tax professional and an HR person. They want to do their thing. They love serving their customers, but they also can't afford to hire a full-time marketer or a full-time agency. We used to be a full-service agency, $2,500, $3,500 a month was our standard retainer. But we pivoted about 2 years ago completely away from that. And we've become a done-with-you marketing agency. So we handle the nerd stuff, all the API integrations and setup. We help with strategy. And then we build the system and then coach the business owner on how to use the system to get new customers to come in and get their satisfied customers to come back.
Interesting. So one thing, so for the audience is really interesting is what are the 4 laws of marketing that can make or break a business?
Yeah, the 4 laws of marketing it's very simple. And that's the first one. Keep it simple, especially for local businesses. When we're working, for example, with a barber or a hair salon, a cosmetologist, they see all these people out there doing all this stuff, and they hear that you got to have an Instagram, you got to have TikTok, and you got to do this, and you got to have a podcast, and you got to have a YouTube, and you got to have your website, you got to have your local SEO, and they hear all these things, and they think that it's true because these experts are saying it, and it sounds right. It's how they're influenced to buy things, so it sounds right. But what they fail to understand or take into account is that, for example, a barber shop in an urban environment, their typical customer is going to come from less than 5 or from half a mile away. And so when you're only trying to reach the people that live within a half a mile of your business, why are you trying to spend all of this time and energy getting noticed on a platform where you're trying to get in front of people all over the world? If your business is in Ohio, you're not going to have anybody coming to your shop from Texas. So marketing just needs to be simplified. That's the first law. Every client that comes to us, their marketing has always been too complex. So we strip it down. So that's the first one. The second law is be genuine. Just be genuine. Be yourself. Be authentic. People, don't try to be the big wig. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Don't copy somebody. Just be genuine. Be yourself. The third law is a tactic is not a strategy. And so for so many of, again, the avatars that the clients that we work with, they'll like pay-per-click ads. For example, Chris, let's take pay-per-click ads on this. So a lot of people will run Google pay-per-click ads, and they'll come to us and we'll be working on their marketing strategy. And we might say, hey, have you ever thought about running ads? And they'll go, oh, we did that. It didn't work for us, Eric. Oh, we tried ads, didn't work. And the weird thing is, depending on the type of business, I 100% know that the ads will work. And so I'll ask them, I'll say, when you were running ads, was that ad leading people to the homepage of your website or to a special landing page that was built just for that ad? And every single time it was coming to the homepage of our website. And then I'm able to go, that's why it didn't work. That's why it didn't work. You put out an ad that was effective and it created this question. It opened a loop for somebody. But then when they clicked on the ad and they came to your website, suddenly they're on a scavenger hunt. They got to find the thing that they just clicked on that they were interested on. Every single ad will always be more effective when it comes to a landing page. So many times clients, they see somebody do something and they copy the tactic without taking time to understand the principle behind the practice. And so that's what we talk about with our clients a lot is we have to understand the principle behind the practice. Why did that work? What was happening just before somebody engaged with that piece of marketing? What happened after? A tactic isn't a strategy. And then the fourth and final one is do less with more. And by that, we mean don't try to do everything. There's only 4 ways to attract a new customer. There's only 4 main marketing advertising channels, if you will. And if your business is doing under $1 million in revenue per year, you need to be doing one of them and one of them only. And you have to master it. After $1 million, that's when we can start to diversify and branch out a little bit. But under $1 million, 95% of the time, you just need to be doing one of the 4, and that's it. So those are what we consider the laws of marketing, and we see them play out time and time again.
Interesting. One thing I have a question about is because recently, how is SEO changing with AI in social media and advertising?
Yeah, SEO really isn't changing as much as it is now we're seeing AEO. Your website needs to be set up to answer questions that an AI can reference and source. It's always been helpful to have FAQs on your website. It's now pretty critical to have questions, frequently asked questions on your website. It's important to write content in a way that is question answer, even if it's not in a formal FAQ section. You now have to start to kind of write content in a way that is both SEO and then also AEO. So optimize for artificial intelligence to gather and then to use an answer and then link to you as a source. And so it's a golden opportunity a lot to that. But it also depends. I would say the caution to that is it depends upon your business. Again, a barber, doesn't need to worry about it. A pizza shop, don't worry about it. Your website is important and you need to do a few things on your website. But honestly, the most important thing, if you're a brick and mortar store or you're a service area store, the most important thing you could focus on is your Google business profile and your Apple Business Connect listing. 90% of your success online is going to come from those two places. And so that's where somebody needs to spend all of their time. Again, SEO on a website, you're trying to rank everywhere. Now, if you're e-commerce, if you're e-learning, if you're a coach, a consultant, you don't care where your customers come from. If you've got a podcast that you're wanting it to get discovered, SEO, AEO, extremely important. If you're a local mom and pop shop, if you're a local attorney, barbershop, pizza shop, mechanic, private school, church, synagogue, focus on your Google business profile, your Apple Business Connect, and you're going to see remarkable things happen very quickly.
Interesting. Yeah. A lot of people I was talking to was like the Google business profile and then local SEO. That's the first time I've heard of Apple Connect. So I'll check that out.
Yeah. Apple Business Connect just came out a little over a year ago. Apple started noticing that a significant number of people were downloading Google Maps onto their iPhones. 51% of smartphone carriers carry an iPhone. And Apple started realizing that Apple Maps wasn't getting the use because the content in it wasn't as up-to-date and reliable because they were pooling information from third parties. And so Apple decided to take that on. They've now opened up, it's called Apple Business Connect. You can claim your Apple Maps listing just like you can for your Google. It's a little more, you got to know it's a little more complicated unless you work with an agency that's approved to do it. You can do it, but sometimes it's just easier to work with an agency that's approved to do it. But you want to claim that and optimize it for sure.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'll, before I hop on the bandwagon, I'll see how it plays out because these new things, features usually have a history of people jumping and all of a sudden they just pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah.
The other question is because a lot of the audience, they're like doctor, lawyer, dentist, high income, and they're like, yeah, our time it's got to be built on the practice, my craft. I don't have time for social media, etc. And then you said, why should business owners not outsource their marketing? So what's a doctor or dentist or lawyer to do if they can't outsource their marketing?
It's partner with somebody. Nobody's going to say it as good as you or your office staff can. And the frequently asked questions that you're getting are going to be, they're going to change a bit over time as new things come out, even in a medical space or something like that. So having you and your team engaged with the content that's being shared on your Google business profile, maybe on a social media, there's not a lot. Most people aren't going to run to social media to find a doctor, dentist, attorney. In my experience, it's been a big waste of time for most of our clients. And most, especially dentists, we work with several dentists. I don't know what it is with dentists. I love dentists, but every dentist is fascinated about their x-ray machines. I don't know why, but every time we do a dentist or redesign a dentist website, we have to convince the dentist that nobody cares except for other dentists about what x-ray machine you have. People want to know, what kind of insurance do you take? Do you see kids? What's the kid's first visit like? How do you deal with somebody that's nervous and afraid that it has a low tolerance of pain? These are the questions people want to know. And if you can answer the questions that people are coming to your website with, well, you're going to be the person they call and make an appointment with. But too many times, websites, they don't do that. And so you really need to do that, have a really solid local SEO strategy, and then maybe some pay-per-click ads to pick up the people that we would call them in the consideration phase of the buying cycle. They're looking for the dentist or doctor or attorney right now. You need the pay-per-click ads for them. So yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And then you're also the host of the Digital Nomad Entrepreneur podcast, which I encourage the listeners and viewers to check out. So we talked about marketing and you talked about very local, and you have very interesting. You have 4 kids and you started in scaling a location independent business. For example, me and my wife, and I know a lot of like dual income, no kids, and they're stocking away just to make it to like this idea of retirement. Of course, there's a fire movement, but What do you say when people will say you have 4 kids and you're a digital nomad living in England? How do you do it? How do you answer that?
The how is become the easy thing. If I can real quick, can I explain the why real quick and then the how?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So the why is, for those that can see on the video, I've got this little tattoo right here on my right hand between my thumb and pointer finger. And it's just a little dash, just a little line. And that dash represents the fact that one day on my tombstone, I'm going to have my name. I'm going to have my birth date, my death date, and in between the two will be this little dash. And that dash represents my entire life. And I used to be a pastor before this. And I had sat with people in hospital care, in hospice care, and in the emergency room. And I've heard countless times the unlived dreams that people realized were never going to happen because life circumstances just didn't allow it for them. They waited too long or they died too young. I remember I was sitting with a man and his wife. He had cancer, and I was at their house the night he died when it was just the three of us. And she brought a map out and she showed me they had planned this big RV trip. He was going to retire. They were going to buy this RV and they were going to travel the United States. And they had even had it mapped out. They had been getting brochures. They had been all of these things. And 1 year to the date of his retirement, I officiated his funeral. And I just had so many of those. And I just decided that we've got this time period before our kids transition into young adult life where they're going to be doing their thing and stuff like that. And we want that for them. And we're excited. Our oldest is going to be 18 in June. And so my wife and I were so excited to see him start to make that transition and things like that. But we realized, we were about to buy a house, Chris, and we looked up one day and we said, wait a second, we're just living the life that everybody around us is living, and we don't have a problem with it. I'm not knocking anybody that lives that lifestyle. We just never chose to live it. We were just doing it because that's what everybody was doing. And we were just caught up in this river of life, but we didn't choose it. And so I just said, let's just have a conversation. Is this the river we want to be in? Is this where we want to be right now? And we just decided it wasn't. And so we went on a test trip. We didn't just jump ship. We took 3 months. And at the time we were renting a house because again, we had moved and we were going to buy this house in Virginia Beach, but we were waiting for a year. And I went to our landlord. We were on a month-to-month lease. And I went to our landlord and I said, hey, we're either going to put everything in storage and move out for 3 months. We're going to go to Istanbul, Turkey, and Europe for 3 months. And when we get back, we're going to buy a house. And he really wanted us to buy his house. And I said, or I'll pay you 50% of the rent for 3 months and we'll just leave our stuff in the house. And then when we get back, we'll either buy your house or we're going to move out and be done. And he said, oh, I don't want to find a new tenant. Just pay me 50% of the rent. And I said, okay, because I never say somebody's no for them. And so that's what we did. We went on a test trip. And by the end of it, we were like, this is how we want to live. We went back to the States, sold almost everything we owned. And we've lived out of carry-on luggage for 3.5 years. Everything we own fits in the carry-on luggage. And we need about $8,000 a month to live. That covers our rent and groceries and sightseeing and our tickets. And we had keep a little stockpile of money if we need to pay for a dentist visit. We self-insure. We have catastrophic insurance in case something major happens. We do have that, but for most places in the world, our daughter woke up one day and we were in El Salvador and her face was swollen. When we took her to the emergency room and she had the mumps because the MRR vaccination she had in the States didn't cover the strain of mumps in El Salvador. We didn't know. So she had the mumps. So we took her to the emergency room. They did an ultrasound. The doctor saw her, confirmed it was mumps, wrote a prescription, and we were in and out of the emergency room in 2 hours. with the prescription, and it cost us about $85. So that's just how we have lived. Like I said, we find Airbnbs and we negotiate the price. And yeah, we've been able to take our kids from the depths of the Amazon jungle to the top of the Eiffel Tower and every place in between. And so it's a lot more achievable than most people think.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
It sounds, I love this intentionality and consciously choosing what narratives you choose to buy into. And because the things that I'm bringing up are just mainstream and it's just fed down your throat. It's quite interesting. Yeah, my wife and I, we did a scouting trip last summer just because when everything was going to shit in America, we were thinking of just leaving, and that's a different story, but interesting. And I think a lot of it's based on fear. It's health insurance and college costs and saving for retirement, all these things, and insurance. But it's interesting to talk to people that have done it and spreading it and inspiring others. If people wanted to connect with you and work with you or talk with you, how can they do that?
The best way, I have a vanity URL, if you will. Eric Dingler is my name, Dingler, very simple, Eric, ERC. So just ericdingler.com. That's going to drop you right onto my LinkedIn. I just forward that to LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn, click the connect button, send me a message, and we start to have a conversation right there. And if you're not on LinkedIn, my web design business for the United States is In Transit Studios. So you can go to intransitstudios.com and connect with us there through our website. If you're interested in having a digital marketing evaluation, more than happy to do a free strategy session and look at what you got and create what we call a digital marketing blueprint. Be more than happy to put together a digital marketing blueprint for your audience. Then they can decide whether they want to take that and implement it on their own, or they talk to us about implementing it with us.
Excellent. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I love your passion and I love your faith too, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.